This is the Big Bad Boot.
We're siblings who explore spooky and scary stories, urban legends, tall tales, and true crime, all located in this crazy state that's shaped like a boot. A podcast about the weird state you wish you were from.
Hosted by the weird siblings you wish you had.
Welcome to the Big Bad Boot. I'm Katie.
I'm not.
And this liability sitting next to me is my brother. His name is Caleb. We're some crazy siblings that love the state of Louisiana, and that's what this podcast is about. It's our second episode. Caleb, we're doing that.
We are.
This is so cool.
I'm excited.
Congrats on our first episode, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, very well researched.
You did such a good job. I'm so
Right?
proud of you. It was like watching someone graduate kindergarten. I mean that
I was going to
respectfully.
say, I love drinking when someone's complimenting me, but then you say that.
Well, it was meant to be a compliment. I mean, you have to
Thanks.
understand, I'm 6 years older than you, which a lot of people think we're twins, by the way, which makes me feel really good.
It's because you
about
stole
myself.
my teeth. Literally.
I didn't
Hi,
st-
veneers.
Hi, veneers. Yes, I didn't steal his teeth. Here's the story.
Katie,
No, I'll tell you what really happened.
Katie said, let me take you on a brother-sister date. I said, okay. She fully brought me to the dentist, and they said, oh, y'all's facial structure is so similar. Katie, let's put his teeth in your mouth. I had braces and headgear for 9 years. I had braces, headgear, a Justin Bieber haircut, and acne before I took my
Before
Accutane.
it was cool. Work
Oh.
smarter, not harder. No, here's the thing. I got veneers because back in my old life, I used to be on TV, and everybody you see that's on TV has fake teeth. I don't know if everybody knows that, but it's the truth. So I go to get veneers, and the dentist is like, they have to fit them to your face. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, you and your brother literally look exactly alike, and we don't want to give you horse teeth. His teeth look great. So they just took a mold of his teeth and put his teeth in my face. And that's why my teeth look so natural. So I think it's a testament to Dr. Hope Taylor DDS, who
All I
did
know
my
is
teeth.
you never fell asleep with headgear doing
Sure
this.
didn't.
And
Work-
then you got that puddle of drool.
Work smarter, not harder.
Whatever.
Mhm.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. Thanks for nothing. Just kidding.
What are we doing? Is this a podcast?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
Get into it.
I'm
Do
so
something.
I'm so excited about this one.
Okay.
Okay. Today,
Okay.
we're going to talk about the Myrtles Plantation.
Okay.
The Myrtles Plantation. So, for those of you who are from Louisiana, this is an oldie but a goodie.
It is. It is.
So, this is an oldie but a goodie. But if you're not familiar with the story, like, buckle up, hold on to your butt. This is a fun one. No, I want to preface this.
It's a wild one for sure.
There's a lot of directions that I could have gone with this because there's
Okay.
so much history. This place is so old, and there's so
It is.
many stories weaved into this place. It's
I love
great.
that place.
But I'm only going to be focusing on one of the legends around the Myrtles today.
There's
because-
like 4 that came into my head.
Because we don't have 5 hours.
Right.
So
I think I know you, so I think I know where it's going.
I think you know.
But we'll see.
My notes are typed.
Mine weren't.
My sources today are from an episode of the podcast Southern Gothic, which you actually
Oh.
turned me on to.
Love, dude.
That's a really great
Brandon
podcast.
Scheckschneider, he's awesome. Love it.
Really, really good podcast, really well researched. So
Yes.
highly recommend that podcast. An episode of the Netflix series, The Files of the Unexplained.
Yeah, we watched that
Mhm.
together.
We watched that together. I fully was not expecting to like that series as much as I did,
Same.
but it was very good.
Yeah.
Then the Myrtles official website, which is literally themyrtles.com.
Right.
But a lot of information I discovered this person in my research who now I'm like completely obsessed with, and you're going to be obsessed with too.
Ooh, okay.
His
Who?
name is Troy Taylor,
Okay.
and he has a podcast and a website called American Haunting. And he was actually
Ooh, okay.
featured on the Netflix episode of Files of the Unexplained.
Nice.
And
Credible.
he is a person who like has very heavily researched the Myrtles and has provided a lot of the information of like what we know today to be historically accurate, and has kind
Nice.
of like helped break through the lore, if you will.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
So
Love.
I'm like now fully obsessed with him. He's like a really smart guy. He's a historian. So a lot of my research today comes from him and those places I just cited.
Okay,
But
cool.
so the Myrtles is a fully operational bed and breakfast in St. Francisville. And today it is fully operating tourist attraction. They
Yes.
literally are operating almost 365 days a year.
Yes.
It is known as one of the most haunted places in America. It's been given
Yes.
that name many, many years ago, and it lives up to it. It's hard because it is not lost on myself or Caleb that is a complicated history, not just in Louisiana, but in the South as a whole, that
It is.
plantation homes are now tourist attractions.
It is. And that's horrible.
These places were built on the exploitation of African people.
Right. Because,
Like,
how would you feel going to tour Alcatraz? Not
correct.
Alcatraz, Auschwitz.
Correct.
Like, that's hard.
So I want to put that out there, like, before we get into this. That is not lost on us.
No. Horrible.
But we are just looking at this place and this story as something that is Louisiana lore, Louisiana history.
Mystery.
Correct. It is a historical site.
Yes.
But it was a working plantation
Right.
for a very long time, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But I just want to say we are aware of that, and that is not lost on us.
Correct.
But St. Francisville is a very interesting place because it claims to be the second oldest town in the state of Louisiana. Did not know that.
The oldest I know for a fact.
Which is what?
Natchitoches.
Ooh, try to spell that.
No.
I can't.
Wait, I can actually.
I know how to pronounce it, but
Anywho.
anywho.
No, I give up.
But it's in the heart of what's called plantation country in this part of the state. And it seems like it's worlds away from New Orleans because
it really does.
the landscape looks totally different.
It's beautiful. It's like hilly.
You don't feel like you're in Louisiana.
Right. Like,
right.
we don't have hills here.
N-
Like,
What are hills?
literally. What's above sea level?
Nothing.
Right.
No.
Heaven.
And but a lot of this area, again, was built on the slave and plantation economy.
Right.
So there's a lot. The Myrtles is not the only mansion in this area.
No. No.
And this is I didn't know that before the Civil War, it was home to over half of the United States millionaires. St. Francisville.
Yes.
That's wild. And back then, a millionaire.
Yeah. And Myrtles, like, that wasn't even a big plantation. Like, if you
No.
look at the Myrtles house, it's not a
It's not
mansion
big.
at all. Like,
well, we'll
I
get into
would-
that.
Oh.
It started as a cottage.
Okay, because I was
Mhm.
about to say, like, I'd be willing to bet mom and dad's house has more square footage.
Right.
It's not a grand, like, I'm thinking Oak Alley
People
and
think of
Homa's
like
house.
antebellum homes with the big sweeping columns and the
Yes.
big tall staircases.
Right.
And this is not like that. This is
No.
like a Creole style
Right.
home. So
Bellissimo.
I do recommend going to the Myrtles because just for the pure like beauty of it and
It is
architecture, and it is a very well run operation.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Like they do a really good job. The tour guides there are great. It's not it is worth the tour.
The people who work there,
Yeah, they're great.
they grew up there
Right.
and they love that place.
Which we're also
Like,
going to get into that too.
Ooh.
But
we are firing on all cylinders here.
I hate you. But it's been known to be one of the most haunted houses in America. And
Mhm.
of course, hundreds and hundreds of people over the years have visited. But there are those that claim that the lore of the Myrtles is based on absolute total falsehood. And that the legends are not even real and that they're totally made up.
What?
Which part of me, when I heard that, and you and I are the same person,
My childhood is shattering.
we grew up listening to the lore and the mysteries about the Myrtles, which I'm going to get into. But can you tell me, because you spent the night there, like,
Yeah.
what is it like to actually be there? And
Very
what is
spooky. And I like no cap. Like I felt very young just now.
it's lit.
No cap, bro. Things happened.
Mhm.
Things definitely
So
happened. I was there with two of my friends. I made one of my friends sit in the bathtub so I could go to the bathroom. I was that scared.
Caleb.
I was that scared.
And you weren't like, you were like an adult.
I was fully 22 years old.
Yeah.
This was not that long ago, Barbara.
Yeah.
Things happened, very specific little things. Like, it wasn't like you heard like a "Ooh," or like a "get out." Like, it wasn't anything like that.
Yeah.
There were things like our drawers in the little like chest of drawers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the drawers would start shaking like violently. And I was like, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. I'm hopping in my 2004 Toyota Corolla at the time. And I'm
Yeet.
all you're
I'm
going to see
yeeting
is
out
a
of here.
cloud of smoke
Yeah.
and a Caleb-shaped hole in the wall.
Uh-huh.
I'm out.
I remember you telling me about this
I
after
didn't
it
sleep
happened.
a wink. It was horrifying. Loved it.
So from the jump, you are going on the stance of you fully believe this place is haunted.
I do.
And a lot of people agree with you.
I don't think, I will even say this. I don't think there's something you can tell me right now that will make me believe it's not haunted.
Okay. I like that.
Or that they don't have like special effects in place, which I don't believe they do.
I don't think so either.
I really don't. Who has the time?
Who has the production budget in this economy?
No one.
If you can't make your own ghost, store-bought is fine. You know?
Okay, bear fucking Tessa. Also, she's a
Love
national
her.
treasure.
Love her. So that's kind of the preface. So let's start with the history of the place itself. Okay. So it was built in 1796 by our boy General David Bradford. Okay.
Period. Oh, he sounds familiar.
I would be very shocked if you recognized who this was because he's not from Louisiana.
Okay.
So
that's my only history minor.
So he was a very prominent guy. He was actually the Deputy Attorney General in Washington County, Pennsylvania. Of course, this is very young America. This is like right after
17 what?
96.
Yeah.
So this is right
20
after
years old.
She's fresh.
She can barely drink.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh.
I like this guy. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
He was one of the people that was very highly involved in the Whiskey Rebellion in the late 1790s. Like people say he was kind of like the ringleader. So you kind of familiar with like the Whiskey Rebellion?
Oh, yeah. Get into it.
So this started as like people who were getting a little pissed off because the federal government started really taxing liquor and specifically whiskey. Do I know what you're about to say? Watch what's going to happen
when you try to tax our whiskey.
Yes.
Oh,
from Hamilton.
Yes.
That's what they're talking about.
General Bradford.
Mm-hmm.
You better get into it.
His nickname was actually Whiskey Dave, baby.
I want to.
I think Whiskey Dave.
I want to tattoo that on my outer thigh.
Whiskey Dave.
Whiskey Dave.
Whiskey Dave sounds like he was a snack too.
Whiskey Dave.
Like he probably had a really cool beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He was rugged. So he was all up in the Whiskey Rebellion up in Pennsylvania. And he was like, you're not going to tax my whiskey.
Love it.
Well, it got so bad that it started as people complaining and then it eventually erupted into violence. And at one point, a full-blown mob attacked a tax collector's house and burned it to the ground. So George Washington is like, y'all need to chill the heck out. Like, let's figure this out. But he sends a full militia to go stop these people. And legend has it that he had a price on Whiskey Dave's head. He was like, bring me back General David Bradford. I have a hit out on him.
Okay, that's super dark, but it makes me like Whiskey Dave more.
I like Whiskey Dave even more.
That's it. I'm getting the tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it.
Okay. If you are like graphic designer or a tattoo artist, send us some Whiskey Dave.
1 million streams on this. We'll go live.
So George Washington had a hit out on this man, supposedly, allegedly. So Whiskey Dave's like, I got to GTFO. I got to leave.
Right.
Which this was back in the day where you literally could run away, cut your hair, change your name, have a completely different life.
Get away with anything.
You can get away with anything. So he hightails it out of there. And for some reason, Whiskey Dave decides to move down here to the Devil's Butt Crack in Louisiana.
You can chew the air here.
But at this time, it was not even Louisiana yet. It was still technically the Spanish territory of Florida, and it was called Bayou Sara at the time. But where the Myrtles is now, of course, is in Louisiana.
Right.
But this was so long ago, it wasn't even Louisiana yet. So he purchases a little 650 acres, just a little bit. He purchases 650 acres, and he builds, and comes straight from the article, a quaint little 8-bedroom cottage. Barbara, I rent a 2-bedroom home.
Let me tell you, my first apartment was 912 square feet.
Right.
$1,100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I had exposed brick. She was a moment.
She was cute.
She was a moment, and she was an icon.
Mm-hmm. But
tiny.
She was tiny. She had a tiny little waist. She was tiny. So he builds this very quaint little cottage. The fact that it's called a cottage
makes me want to chew bricks. Okay.
So he decides to move there. And he could have went back home because in 1799, he gets a presidential pardon. They're like, we're sorry. Can you come help us out with some other stuff because you're so awesome? And he's like, no, I'm good. I think I'm going to stay down here in Louisiana, which I think is a power move.
Work. Okay.
Yes.
Get the presidential pardon. Decline the offer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not helping you.
I want to be invited to the party. I'm just not coming.
Okay, that's you.
That's me.
That's what we do.
Please invite me to everything. If it's past 7.
See, and I go to everything.
Mm-hmm. What's the parking like? What's the menu?
It's
Who's
like
going to
an
be
act
there?
of Congress to get my sister to go have a drink with me and play pool. Some of us are just trying to have a good time and bond.
We're doing that right now. I had to make homework involved, but we're doing that right now.
Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Love that for us.
Anywho, so that's how it started.
Okay.
That was
Laurel
the first
Grove.
structure that it became what is now the Myrtles Plantation.
Yeah, the quaint.
Mm-hmm.
bedroom.
So fast forward in time a little bit.
Okay.
General Bradford's daughter, named Sarah, marries her dad's colleague named Clark Woodruff.
Ew,
Right?
I don't like that.
I don't know if I like it either, but they say they were very much in love, according to legend. But they showed
Okay.
a picture of what this man supposedly looked like on the Netflix series, and he looked like the butler from the original Haunted Mansion movie with Eddie Murphy, where he's like,
Okay.
"Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Evers." Yes.
He is, that actor.
What is his
another
name?
national treasure.
Fabulous.
I don't know.
We need to figure it
He's
out.
great. I want him to be my papa.
And that man in that movie, he's a good looking little old man. This man just gives me
He-
those vibes.
Yeah.
Like
Spooky ooky, megalamooky.
old Megalamuki.
Yeah.
So Clark Woodruff, I think I just don't like saying his name.
He's
It feels
old.
It sounds like
He's
like dandruff.
old. He probably has dandruff in his beard. Hello, Head and Shoulders.
So
They
Clark
didn't have that back then.
No.
Gross.
Clark Dandruff shows I do have a feeling this was kind of like an arranged marriage because back then what marriage was not arranged in some way. It was her dad's like law colleague. But
I don't
according
like
to
that one bit.
sources, they were very much in love. I hope they were.
It's sure.
Um,
but because women had a say back then.
Right.
Like, that's gross.
So
Canceled.
General Bradford dies. And the house was
Whiskey
going to go Whiskey Dave, our guy Whiskey Dave. He dies, I'm sure,
R.I.P.
like with his boots on doing something awesome. And of course, the estate goes to his wife. But
What?
heaven forbid a woman run anything. Which I'm noticing like there's a trend here that anytime an old white guy takes over, some crazy things start happening.
Because men have done so great. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Let's let a woman run some things.
let's see what happens.
Let's just see what happens.
Right?
Yeah.
Can't be worse.
So Clark Woodruff, the new son-in-law, which this is the first out of 2 times this house will be passed to a son-in-law, which I'm like, you know what? That's a very Abby move. Because our mom...
And wait, that makes sense because my
Mhm.
mom repeatedly says my favorite child is my son-in-law.
Mom,
Is she
yes.
lying?
She's not.
No.
Not
at all.
Our mom's favorite child is my husband.
You give my brother-in-law some chicken tenders and a tennis racket. Happiest man.
And he's fine. And
He-
my mom loves that because...
He's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I
Love him.
put Michael in charge.
Love him. I would
No.
use you as a shield for his body.
I know. As you should.
Michael, I love you so much.
As you should. But so he gets it. Clark Woodruff Dandruff is now the proprietor of
Not dandruff.
Dandruff
Oh, no.
of Laurel Grove.
Okay.
And so Clark and Sarah, they have some kids. They have a litter of kids as you do back in the day.
Like how? Like are we talking a Kia Sportage litter or like a Honda Odyssey?
So
litter?
here's where the legend and the actual facts differ.
Okay.
Because it is with Clark and Sarah and their kids that the most famous...
Your names are Clark
and
and Sarah.
Darla.
That's what I had to.
Your names are Clark and Darla.
Oh, sorry, I had to.
Clark and Sarah and their kids. This is where the most famous legend of the Myrtles starts. Okay. You know where I'm at?
Yeah, I clocked in.
Okay.
I know where you are.
So this is the famous story of the ghost of Chloe, the slave woman.
Boom.
And this
okay.
is where it starts.
Yes.
Okay. So legend has it that Clark Woodruff had a love affair with Chloe, who was a mixed race, beautiful slave woman that worked on their plantation. And of course, back then you had people who worked outside and people who worked in the house.
Right.
And he moved her into the house so he could be closer to her. And legend has it that they started some kind of love affair.
Okay.
Which we all know actually really did happen, and it was horrible.
Oh, 100%.
Especially women, but they were all exploited.
Right.
And that gave her, being in the home, more privileges than other slaves, because you weren't out in the fields. I don't know,
privileges like shade.
Right. Shade, or, you know, access to a chair every now and then.
Literally. Horrible.
And for whatever reason, she feels like over time his interest in her wanes. And so she's like, I got to keep this man interested or I'm not going to be able to stay in this house anymore.
Better get into it.
And the legend has it that she is eavesdropping in the parlor on one of his business meetings. And she has her ear up to the door. And she gets caught. He opens the door. He catches her eavesdropping. And so the punishment back then for eavesdropping was cutting off your ear. It was like when you stole something, they cut off your hand, right?
Oh, my Lord.
And this really did happen back then, because it was a message to not only other slaves, but other people that you had power over.
That's horrible.
It's awful.
Because back then, let a white person do it, it's fine.
Heaven forbid. So Chloe, to cover up her now missing ear, starts wearing a green turban or headdress to cover this up. That's important. The green turban's important. Yes.
Okay.
So,
poor baby. That's horrible.
The legend continues that she gets her ear cut off. She's banished out to the fields again.
Wait, stop. So this girl, that's a beautiful girl, gets her ear cut off, and then they're like, all right, go back to the field outside. Bye, Barbara.
Bye, Barbara. You're out of here.
Seriously? Oh, that's terrible.
She's back out in the fields. And so according to the story, she's like, I got to figure out how to get back in everybody's good graces. So she comes up with a plan that
she'd be great today with a business degree.
She's grinding.
Wheels are turning. I like her.
So she decides that for one of the kids' birthdays, it doesn't say which kid, but they have 3 kids in this story. Their names are, get into it. You ready? Cornelia. Don't love it.
Okay.
James, fine.
Sure.
And Mary Octavia.
That's a good drag name.
Mary Octavia.
Now welcome to the stage.
Mary Octavia.
That's a good one.
It's a great one.
All right.
So
James.
that's the 3 kids. And then, of course, the mom, Sarah. So Chloe decides that for this birthday, she's going to offer to bake a cake. Because she could wrist flip in the kitchen. She was a good cook.
In the kitchen, wrist flip like a stir fry.
I hate us. And so she decides she's going to put a little bit of the juice of oleander, which is it's a beautiful but poisonous plant.
Do you want to know how I know that?
How?
From the lady with the octopus tattoo from Orange is the New Black. She wanted to kill someone with oleander.
Which also, I love the name Oleander. Is that weird?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. She decides she's going to make this poisonous cake, but we don't know if her plan was to kill people. Most people think it was her plan to just make them sick. So then she could swoop in, nurse them back to health.
Being back in the good graces.
And now they're like, oh, thank you so much. We would have never.
I saved one of the gaggle of children.
I saved one of your dozen children.
Literally.
So that was the plan. According to the legend, she poisons them too much. Sarah and all 3 of the kids die.
Oh, Chloe, we're so close.
I know. So Chloe, she's so upset. She's grief-stricken. She feels bad about what she's done. So she confesses. She's like, I'm sorry. Yes.
Bad move.
So according to legend, they hang her in the front yard and then they throw her body in the river. And they weigh her body
down. Mississippi?
Yeah, this is
important.
You
ain't even gotta weigh somebody. It's gone.
Well, this is important. They say they weigh her down so her spirit can't travel to the next.
That's like phase. Another level of hate.
Right.
That's disgusting.
So that's the legend. That's where we start. And for those of you who are either from Louisiana or familiar with this story, that is the most famous story that they tell this at the Myrtles tour.
Oh, 100%.
It is in books. It is in movies. It is in TV specials. This is the story that I heard when I went to the Myrtles Plantation in 5th grade on a field trip. Like, this is in the common ether of this place.
Ooh,
this is
good word. Ether.
Thank you. This is part of the history, and it's accepted as fact. Okay. But it is not true. I know. It's not true.
What?
But I don't want you to be heartbroken. That's just one of the many, many, many legends that, and people claim to see Chloe. So there is a ghost that people have seen many,
with a
many
turban.
times with a green turban.
Yes.
Okay. But they claim that that's not actually what happened, that the story was created after the ghost was seen. Okay. So here's how we're going to get into that.
Okay. I mean, because you still could see the ghost.
Correct.
So,
okay.
Okay.
So in this Netflix episode, which I highly recommend, again, it's called Files of the Unexplained, and it's like episode 3 or 4, and it's about the Myrtles Plantation. And they interview the current owner, one of the tour guides. They interview a lot of people, but I want to talk about 3 people specifically that are in this episode. Okay. The first is Hester Eby, who is precious.
Hester, love it.
And she's one of the tour guides. If Hester was in a movie,
she makes good biscuits.
She would be played by Della Reese. And you know who I'm talking about. She's the lady from Beauty Shop.
Yeah.
That says, she died.
Yeah. Mrs. Towner. T as in Tom.
I knew he was going to do this.
O as in Opavine. W as in Willacoochee, Georgia. Ner as in, I don't live near here. I love that woman. Another national treasure.
Della Reese. So that's who would play her. So I give you that visual. So this is a real person. Miss Hester's a real person. She has worked there for decades. She is one of the main tour guides.
I'm playing it in my head.
She's absolutely precious. Okay. The second person is a guy named Morgan Moss, who is
a guy named Morgan.
He's the current owner of the Myrtles Plantation.
Oh, wait, it's a guy named Morgan.
His name's Morgan.
It's like Dad, a guy named Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, love that.
And then our friend that I mentioned at the very beginning of the episode, Mr. Troy Taylor, who's the haunted historian and researcher.
Podcast man.
Correct. So let's start with Hester, which another fantastic name.
Hester, aka Mrs. Towner.
Miss Towner. She believes, and she says this in the show, that she believes with 100% certainty that the Myrtles is haunted.
I do too.
She says she's seen ghosts. She's talked to people that seen ghosts. And here are a couple of her stories about ghosts that she's seen.
Okay.
She said one day she was given a tour.
Okay.
And this little girl comes with her mom. They're on the tour. And this little girl walks off by herself and she starts talking to someone. And the tour guide goes up to her and she's like, "Hey, who are you talking to?" And the girl says, "This little boy looks like he's very dirty and hungry."
Oh, nope.
And she turns around and she said she didn't see anyone.
Nope.
And she says, Hester says she believes fully to this day that this little girl saw a ghost of a little boy. Okay?
Something about a child ghost.
I don't like it.
Much more.
It's
scary
so much more
than
scary.
An adult ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Gross.
Yeah. Anytime they have audio playing of like kids singing in a horror it's awful.
No.
Yeah.
Out.
Hester also says, which I kind of love this because this would be me if I was a ghost, that the ghosts are OCD. Like they will come and like if your thing is not in the middle of the table, they'll move it.
I have heard that before about the Myrtles.
Or like if something's crooked, they'll move it.
Yes.
Which that would be me. I would be
I don't
a very
like that one bit.
OCD ghost.
Matter of fact, if there's a Myrtles ghost listening, can you come please clean where I live? I'm very busy.
Sound off in the comments. If you're a Myrtles ghost, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, can you dust?
Oh, which,
you know
by
how
the
to
way,
work a Dyson, girl?
Our Gmail is now live.
Oh.
So you can email us.
Oh.
At thebigbadboot@gmail.com.
Love that.
So if you're a ghost from the Myrtles, send us an email.
Shoot us an email.
We'd love to hear from you.
With your thumbs that don't work.
And then get into this. There's a room full of porcelain dolls.
That's disgusting.
And guess what? They move.
Oh, see.
Which to me, that you're asking for that.
Right. Like I'm gonna go to the plantation or whatever. I'm gonna go to the Myrtles. I'm gonna stay in the room with the porcelain dolls.
That's too much.
You want all the eyes? All the dolls.
The dolls.
The dolls. You want all the eyes?
Tip the dolls.
Oh.
So no.
I don't like that one bit.
So Hester is fully on the side of, this place is haunted. I've worked here for years.
I would have to sleep with Hester.
With me and Hester bunking together.
If I slept there again.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, spooky ooky, megalamooky. I'm too scared.
Yeah.
Hester.
So she's like, I don't care what anybody tells me, this place is haunted.
Work.
Okay.
Period.
So Morgan Moss, our second friend from this episode, he is the current owner of the Myrtles Plantation. Now, this place is...
A guy named Morgan.
Yes.
My dude. Okay.
This place has changed hands so many times over the years. So the Moss family, Morgan's parents, buy the Myrtles in 1992. He was 2 years old.
See, years before I was
born. And his family turned it into what we see today, which is like the full-blown tourist attraction. They have like a museum, a gift shop,
right,
bed and breakfast, tours literally all day, all night.
Yeah.
Live music, all kinds of stuff.
Literally.
So he's really taken it to the next level as far as...
Yeah, because I think you can even stay there on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, you can.
Like, it's wild.
Yeah. They're grinding over there.
Good for them.
I want to talk about Morgan a little bit,
okay.
Just because I am so deeply jealous of this person. Morgan, if you're listening, I am so jealous of your life.
Right.
He grew up in a haunted house. And now he owns it. Like, he's kikiing with the ghosts. They're friends. Isn't that the coolest thing ever?
That is.
And he's my age.
Do they talk about people? Do you think, like, when, like...
somebody leaves?
Like, yeah, like when I stayed there.
He's talking to the ghost, and the ghost is like, Morgan, this blonde-headed guy made his friend stand in the bathtub while he peed because he was too scared. So in 1992, he's still a little baby. Morgan's still a little baby.
Okay.
His mom is walking around taking pictures of the property for insurance purposes.
Okay, I know.
I knew you'd love this.
I actually know this part.
Do you want to tell this part?
So okay, it's not so big of a deal now, but back in the day, if you were, because I'm assuming they were filing a claim.
They were getting their house covered for the next year for insurance.
Okay, so they
were renewing their policy.
Renewal time. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she sends these pictures. This is the kicker for me. She waited to do it on a day all of the other staff were off. So she wouldn't be...
Spooky, ooky, megalamooky.
So she wouldn't be interrupting anybody else's work.
Interrupting the ghost?
Correct.
The ghost said nope.
She sends the picture to the insurance adjuster. A couple weeks goes by. He calls her. He says, hey, I need you to retake one of these certain pictures because there's a person in it. And she says, that's impossible. Nobody was there but me.
Work.
Because Morgan even says him and his dad were at the hunting camp. Or his dad was at the hunting camp.
Ugh, very Louisiana thing.
And they show you can look up this picture on the internet.
Oh, I've seen it.
It fully looks like a person.
It is chilling.
And there are people who have taken this photo and like measured it with schematics and like compared like,
is
the
this...
height of the pillar, the height of the roof. Could this be how tall somebody is? Is this realistic to the proportions of a person? And so Morgan says that was the point for his parents where they were like,
okay, it's haunted.
This place is haunted.
Right, straight up.
And they've just accepted it, and he says they live with it. They don't try to prove or disprove anything. They try to preserve the history, and they try to entertain people.
Okay.
That's their goal.
Respect.
Okay. But my favorite person from this episode is Mr. Troy Taylor, who is our American Hauntings podcast and website friend, who's about to be our new best friend. He is a haunted historian, crime buff, author, and he's the founder of American Hauntings, which is a website and, of course, a podcast. He decides years and years ago, he's going to start actually looking into the history because he goes to the Myrtles. He hears all this stuff, all these legends, all these stories, specifically the story about Chloe.
Okay.
He's like, I want to look this up. The legend can be easily disproved by simply looking at historical records. And I'm going to give you some examples.
Okay.
Don't fret too much. We're going to get back to fun stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Sarah, the mom, was not murdered. She died of yellow fever in 1823, which I don't know if y'all know. Yellow fever was getting everybody.
It was like COVID on steroids, bro.
The mosquitoes carried yellow fever.
Ew.
And we got a lot of those. And it was not a joke. People died every year in the summer. It came back every year. So, also, according to history, they had 2 kids, not 3, and they both died of yellow fever. Okay.
Good Lord.
There's also no record of the Woodruffs owning a female slave named Cleo, and they documented
Chloe.
I'm sorry, Chloe, and there's some
Sorry,
iterations that
Katie's
she
a part
was
of the Cleo crew for
Well,
Mardi
no.
Gras.
Which I am, hail Cleo. But there is also some iterations where there is a ghost named Cleo and Chloe, which offers some like reasoning behind why all this was made up. Because the names change, right?
Okay, all right.
So there's no record of them owning anybody named Chloe or Cleo. And they took meticulous records of the slaves that they had, what he could find, right? So I see your face and you're like, I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, like I wanted it to be so true.
So how did like this story that's not even true like get legs?
Right.
Right? Let me tell you why.
Okay.
You're going to love this.
All right. You better get into it.
You better get into it. So in 1950,
Okay.
A wealthy widow.
Work.
You love it already.
Yes.
You're going to love her. Marjorie Munson. She takes over the Myrtles. Okay. She's from Oklahoma and she earned her fortune, baby, from chicken farming.
Wow. Marjorie who?
Munson.
Marjorie, my good old Eminem.
This is who I want to be.
Okay.
I want to be a wealthy chicken farming heiress who just is traveling the world. And she's like, you know what? I think I want to buy a mansion in Louisiana. And she does.
Work.
Okay.
Okay. Bet. Sure.
I don't know what this lady looks like, but in my head, it's Kathy Bates.
I was about to say that.
Uh-huh.
And I like not even for the camera. Like I literally was about to be like Kathy Bates. But like a healthy Kathy.
Oh yeah, like
bigger.
Like the water boy Kathy Bates.
Yeah, has a draw a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's from Oklahoma, so
where she's like, y'all get on in here and pick up this chicken poop. Like y'all get on in here.
She has some grandkids and she's saying, "Stop doing that."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She also smokes cigarettes.
Ate them.
Mm-hmm. So she hears when she buys this place some of the local stories. At this point, the legend of Chloe was not a common thing. It wasn't like a world-renowned story.
Okay.
It was only local lore.
Work.
So she hears some of the local stories about the house and she wants to know more because she's living there.
Right.
So she starts asking questions. And the local people and people whose like relatives used to own the property tell them a story that they used to be told as kids about the ghost of a woman who wore can you guess it?
Turban.
A green turban. And that they would see ghosts of a woman with a green turban.
Work. Love it.
The ghost didn't have a name.
Cool.
Okay, so Marjorie says, who cares? I'm going to give her one. This woman writes
Names are Chloe.
This woman writes a song about this. I looked this up. I could not find the song. I could not find the lyrics to the song. But according to the article by Troy Taylor, he says that she writes a song about a woman ghost wearing a green headdress. So from there, it took off. And over the years, the story morphs and the story changes. And the ghost morphed over time too. So historians explain that sometimes Chloe was a white woman because sometimes people would see a ghost that appeared to be a white woman. Sometimes she was a large African-American woman. Sometimes she was a beautiful woman who was mixed race wearing a green turban. So kind of it evolved according to like what people thought that they saw.
So it was lore.
Correct.
It was lore.
Mm-hmm. So the house really and truly just might be haunted by a woman wearing a green turban, and we just don't know who it is. It's
haunted.
Yes.
It's haunted. I'm telling you.
It's also like really likely that something was going down when everybody lived there, but especially Marjorie, because she was probably hearing stuff going bump in the night. And she's like, I need somebody to explain this to me stat.
Right.
Like, hello?
Right.
Yeah. Hello? Like, she was probably just like wanting to figure out what was going on. Did she see a ghost? Probably. Did she know who that ghost was? Probably not. But many other people claimed that they have seen ghosts.
Yeah.
And this is how I want to end it with some of the ghostly sightings that people have seen.
Work.
Okay.
You better get into it.
Because again, I could have gone in 100 different directions with this,
True.
because there's a lot of people there's a lot of stories that say so many people were murdered here, so many people died here. That's not true,
Right.
according to historical records. Now, it was a working plantation.
So it was not a peaceful place.
People died there.
Yeah.
But not in the ways that legend says they were.
Right.
Okay. So many people have taken pictures and have looked back at the pictures once they leave to realize that there's something that was not there when they were there in the photo. There's a lot of pictures you can look at online that seem to have ghostly figures in the background.
Yeah.
And
I've heard this one before.
Well, there's many.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them where somebody comes, they take a picture, they go back home, they get it developed, and they're like, who's standing there? They're like,
right.
Nobody. Right. So that's a big one, is the photos.
Right.
There's tons of those.
Okay.
There's tons of reports of, you're going to hate this, kids who are seen playing on the veranda, which if you have a veranda, you're rich. Rich.
Literally. The only time I've ever had a veranda is on a Royal Caribbean cruise.
Right?
Like,
if you got a veranda, you rich. If you have a foyer, you rich.
Period.
Mm-hmm. We have a front door.
Amen.
Yeah. And kids can be seen playing out in the yard, in the hallways.
I don't like kids that are
Maybe
here.
that could be the actual 2 Woodruff children who did die of yellow fever.
Maybe.
At the plantation.
Maybe.
Because they did. There's also been sightings by lots of people of a young girl with long curly hair wearing an ankle-length dress who has seen floating outside of the window of the 2nd-story game room.
Floating.
Cupping her hands, trying to see what's going on inside.
No. Floating?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. No, I don't like that.
Let me just say this. If I was a ghost, I would
float everywhere.
I would fully mess with people.
Oh, period.
I'm not going quietly into the night, especially if I was murdered.
Oh, no. Absolutely
I'm
not.
taking batteries out of remotes.
Something to make it inconvenient.
I'm stealing toilet paper.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm turning
I'm
off.
taking the battery out of your key fob.
Uh-huh. I'm turning off Netflix while you're in the middle of an episode.
Amen.
One employee was hired to greet guests at the front gate each day. One day, while he was at work, a woman wearing a white, old-fashioned antebellum dress walked through the gates without speaking to him. And she strolled up to the house and vanished through the front door without opening it.
She said, my daddy owns the lake.
The duck swims on the lake.
But my daddy owns the lake.
And the gateman quit his job the next day and never came back.
Oh.
Which,
come on.
I mean, some people are not like us. Like, if I saw a ghost.
I was scared.
But what if they were just trying to hang out?
But I will be back.
Right?
Like,
it's kind of fun.
I'll drink a Red Bull and go through that horror again. Because, why not? Adrenaline.
Right.
Woo.
Because that's what you signed up for.
Right.
You're not going there to sleep.
Right.
Okay. I like this one.
Okay.
The grand piano on the first floor plays by itself, usually repeating the same chord over and over. I don't like that.
Me either. Dong.
Uh-huh.
Dong. No.
Yeah. And sometimes the music plays through the night, and when someone comes in to see what's going on, it stops and then starts again when they walk out.
Oh, it's a shy ghost.
They're like, wait, I'm practicing.
Literally.
Don't listen yet.
Literally.
Oh.
That's sweet.
Right?
I haven't finished yet. I like that.
And there was a television miniseries that was shot there called The Long Hot Summer.
Accurate.
And the story goes that one day the movie crew moved furniture into the game room and dining room for a scene, and then they left for lunch. When they came back, it was reported that all of the furniture was moved back to the original position. Because the OCD ghost said, you're not messing with my feng shui.
And I would have said, I am so sorry.
Which, it is true that a lot of the original furniture is still in the building. They do say that.
They're very good at, preserving it. And
yes.
Yeah.
So, that's just some ghostly happenings. So, is a legend true? It's not. And
that's so
I know,
that
but
makes me want to
that doesn't
rocks
mean
with open-toed shoes.
That doesn't mean though that there's not ghosts.
There's something there. Something's happening. Something's a brewing.
Because even Mr. Troy Taylor, who is a huge skeptic, whose job kind of is to disprove a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
said in the show, oh, it's fully haunted.
It is. Oh,
It's just
100%.
not haunted by who you say it is.
100%.
So I want to end with a quote from him. What were you about to say? Tell me.
You go try to poop by yourself in there and see if you ain't scared like I did.
I would go before I left my house, which we know that about any place I go to.
True.
So
preparedness. Okay.
Continue. But we should go. I've always wanted to stay, but it's hard to get.
We'll make it a.
It's
a live
hard to
episode.
get a reservation to stay there.
It is.
You got to book it in advance. So we need to book it today for a year from now.
Okay. Work.
Okay. So I want to end with a quote from Troy Taylor. So he wrote this article called "The Myrtles Plantation: Legends, Lore, and Lies: How Historical Research Revealed the True Story Behind One of the Most Haunted Houses in America."
Work.
Okay. So he says, "The Myrtles can be a perplexing place.
Good word.
History has shown that many of the stories that have been told about the place, mostly to explain the hauntings, never actually occurred. In spite of this, the house seems to be haunted anyway. The truth seems to be an elusive thing at this grand old plantation house, but there seems to be no question for those who have stayed or visited that it is a spirited place. The Myrtles Plantation and the ghosts of the past, whoever they may be, are never very far away from the living." And that's the story of the Myrtles Plantation.
That was good.
Wasn't it good?
It reminded me of all the lore I've heard as a child that I loved, but also opened my eyes.
Because what I think it also makes you think about is we have to remember like who, and that's anything with history, like who's making up the lore.
Right.
Because this is also something that Troy explained is that it made people of color the villain. And so that's also an interesting thing to think about because I think that's what a lot of the...
Which in my head, even if that story is true, she's not the villain. She's
I didn't
trying
think
to
she
make
was
it
a
on
villain.
her own.
She's trying to get in where she fit in.
Exactly.
Right. And it's very interesting just to see that people can appreciate that things have been embellished.
Yes.
But not completely discount it because even people that have disproven the legends have said, oh, but it's still very haunted.
Oh, yeah. Something happening.
Something's happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Work.
Yeah.
Well, that was good.
Thank you.
Like
it was fun. I really want to go to the Myrtles, but I went a very long time ago. It was pre-COVID when I went, so I'm sure a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
But it's blowing and going. Like they've got stuff going on all the time.
We should go.
Yeah.
We'll book it. Book it, Dano.
Book it, Dano. Let's do it. Now we've come to the part of the pod where we have the segment that we like to call Stop Embarrassing Yourself. You're saying that wrong.
Yes.
This is our word of the day. So I'm going to take this one.
Work.
Today's word of the day is New Orleans, which some people...
That can be problematic.
Some people are like, that's an obvious one. It's not. Because a lot of people who aren't from the South or Louisiana specifically mispronounce this a lot. And they do it a lot in TV and movies. So people who are from here pronounce it New Orleans. It's not New Orleans.
It's not, for the love of God. It is not Nolans.
It's not Nolans.
I can't stand
Nobody says that.
Oh, if I'm on a flight back home one more time and I hear a bachelorette trip going, Nolans! Like, oh my gosh. Some of us are just trying to go home, Mary.
Some of us are just trying to fly back from Phoenix.
Exactly.
Right. It's not. However, it is pronounced Orleans Parish.
That's true, because New Orleans is inside of Orleans Parish.
Does it make sense?
No.
Nope.
But what does in Louisiana?
Okay. So that's your word of the day. New Orleans, the city, is in Orleans Parish.
Right.
And there you go.
And if you say Nolans in front of me in an airport somewhere, I will make fun of you.
Yeah. New Orleans.
New Orleans or New Orleanians.
Are you going to New Orleans?
I know a lot of old people that say New Orleanians. And I'm like, and they got that. I can't laugh too hard. We got to wrap it up. I got to pee.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you for listening. And remember, God made you.
And the Rougarou too.
So be kind to one another. Bye.
The Big Bad Boot is produced by Lettuce Media and edited by Mallory and Jonah.
Our music was produced by Macro Tracks. Our super cool logo was designed by AWC Graphics. And our sense of humor and childhood trauma was sponsored by Kelly and Abby Morse.